Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Michael Borland. I'm currently the owner of a company called Merchants First. This afternoon, we will be going over the merchant cash advance business from the investor standpoint. So let's get right into it. The first thing is let's do the introduction. In this presentation, we're going to go over the history of the merchant cash advance business. What is a merchant cash advance? Who is a merchant cash advance customer? How does a merchant qualify for the merchant cash advance? The return for companies that provide funding, branching out in the merchant cash advance business, and of course the conclusion. We did add an additional slide, which is going to be the returns for an investor in the merchant and cash advance world. The history of the merchant cash advance business. The merchant cash advance business got started in the late 1990s as an alternative to the rewards network. This service was mainly for restaurants, but unlike rewards network, a merchant could factor all their customer sales, not just customers who were part of a network. At first, this program was designed for restaurants, but in the early 2000s, it was expanded to any merchant who accepted credit cards as a form of payment. With banks closing in the recession of the mid-2000s, this way was the only way millions of business owners were able to get working capital to keep their doors open. According to the Merchant Cash Advance Journal, the industry funded over $500 million in 2010. What is a merchant cash advance? A merchant cash advance, or an MCA, factors the future credit card sales of a merchant. It is not a loan. A funder purchases a portion of the future Visa, MasterCard, and Amex sales of a merchant. The merchant must meet the underwriting guidelines set by the funder. If the merchant meets these guidelines, he's funded. Again, this is not a loan. Who is a merchant cash advance company? First, they must accept Visa and MasterCard as a form of payment, because the advance is determined by the amount of credit card sales that the merchant processes per month. They must be in business at least 1 year. Funders like to see businesses get past that initial 1 year phase. After the first year, the chance of default decreases tremendously. This also gives the funder a chance to see how the company performed over the past year. This also allows the funder to see the highs and lows of the company or business. Next is the merchant's credit score. Different funders have different criteria when it comes to credit scores. Some funders will take merchants with scores as low as 500, but keep in mind the score only tells part of the story. You can get the full story by looking at the bank statements, tax returns, P&L, and doing a site inspection, for example. That brings me to my next point. The merchant must have a physical location. Keep in mind that there are businesses operating on the web only, virtual businesses. Even these merchants must have either an office or a warehouse space. It is very rarely in our industry that we fund a home-based business. How does a merchant qualify? A merchant has to submit a completed application. If the application is not completed, it is returned to the merchant to be completed. The application gives a picture of who the merchant is. For instance, it tells us where they are in the country, what type of business they have, their social security number, tax ID number, and in addition, their bank account information and landlord. The statements, the credit card and processing statements, shows us exactly how much the client is doing in Visa, MasterCard sales in a month. The bank statements verify that these credit card sales are going into the bank account. Now, larger fundings, we would like to see tax returns, income statements, and profit and loss statements, and also do a site inspection. Let's look at a breakdown of the merchant cash advance as far as an investor is concerned. Let's say an investor invests $1 million on January 1st. The factor rate is 1.25. Now, we use the term factor rate and non-interest rate because we are purchasing future Visa MasterCard sales at a discounted rate of 25%. So basically we're charging him a 25% interest rate in layman's term, but it's not considered interest because we are purchasing future and Visa MasterCard sales. Well, the merchant will pay back $250,000 for the $1 million. Now, this is an example. We would never give one customer $1 million, but just to give a very simple overview of the economics. So the merchant pays back $1.25 million in a 6-month period. But the great and beautiful thing of our business is the merchants are always looking for additional working capital, or as we call them, renewals. So a renewal is given anywhere from 4 to 6 months once the client is into the program, and that is based on the amount of money repaid. The merchant must have paid back at least 50% of the 1.25 in order to qualify for an additional renewal. The additional renewal would probably be about half of what we given him initially, which is about $500,000. And again, he would pay the 1.25 factor rate. This would again be a return to the funder or the investor of $625,000. The merchant comes back again for an additional renewal. Again, their factor rate there would be a 1.25, again giving the return to the investor of about $625,000. All commissions are paid directly out of the funding. And what that means is if we give a client $1 million and the commission is 7% or 8%, that comes out of the $1 million and the client gets the rest. So the funder does not adhere an additional cost. As far as the industry standard of bad debt is concerned, it's about 4%. And the reason it's 4% is because we are taking money directly out of their Visa MasterCard sales. Every business in our economy today needs to have Visa MasterCard as a form of payment. So therefore, because we get the money out of the credit card sales on a daily basis, we can keep our bad debt down to a very low number. Now remember, businesses go out of business and things like that, so there are times that is unpreventable. Loss is unpreventable. But looking at it on a total picture, for the year, a funder might have put out $2 million, and at the end of it, he would have taken back in $2.5 million. Even in the case of including bad debt of about $80,000, the funder still walks away with $2.4 million. Just a few other quick side notes. The reason why we're only charging 25% is because we're looking to corner the market, and we're looking to bring on better clients who are more sophisticated, who are larger clients. These numbers could be looked at in the case of 35 or 40% as the industry standards right now. The industry standard is about 1.35 to 1.40, and it can go as high as 1.49 based on a client. And the reason we can do that is because we are purchasing future Visa and MasterCard sales. We're purchasing future receivables. This is akin to the factoring model, where in which a company would purchase future receivables or receivables or purchase orders or things of that nature. This is why we do that. Now, again, in order to attract the more sophisticated client, the more person who's looking to really grow his business and not need us to keep him in business, this is the type of client we would go after. This is the type of client I'm looking to build a business on. Okay, thank you guys. As a follow-up to the previous slide, let's look at a company that's currently in the funding space, a company called GRP Funding located in Springfield, Massachusetts. I had a conversation with the president last week in regards to returns for last year, and GRP funded a total of $25 million, which was new and renewal business in 2010. Their bad debt, as per the previous slide, was 4%. Now, their average funding rate or factor rate is 36%. And that means, they're charging 36% every 4 to 6 months on a client. They are on pace this year, they say, to fund over $40 million in new and renewal business for the year 2011. Just to give an idea of what currently companies are out in our marketplace doing today. Again, to just point out the fourth point, their factor rate is 36%. Wow. Continuing to look at merchant cash advance, branching out, the industry this year is on pace to fund $750 million. That's $250 million more than last year. Strategic Funding, for instance, just did an investment deal with the Las Vegas Mob Experience, which is a new casino in Las Vegas. My company, Merchants First, just signed a funding agreement with Radio Shack, and we're in the midst of signing one with Subways at the meantime. And we are looking more to do a lot of the corporate funding as far as franchises are concerned, because there are tons of new franchises out there that just don't have a funding source. In addition to Subways, we're working with Dickey's Barbecue in relationship to a funding type of agreement. On this side are two articles that you can go to and read about the merchant cash advance business independently. The Business Week article is a really good article that really gives a good overview of the industry and why some clients use our services. And it's a pretty honest article. So I would, ask that if you want to check out something independent of this PowerPoint, that Business Week article is a very good article to read. Well, in conclusion, the merchant cash advance business is a new industry. This industry is a little over 10 years old, maybe closer to 15. And in 2010 funded $500 million in business. It is an alternative for most businesses in order to get working capital, because the banks are not funding, and all indications are the banks will never go back to funding businesses at the rate they once did. The process to qualify is simple and quick, and most fundings happen within 10 days. As an investor, your funds are protected because you are repaid directly from the merchant's credit card sales. This ensures that the investor has his finger on the pulse of the merchant. For example, the investor will be able to see the ebbs and flows of his client. This way, the investor is able to adjust when he's not getting paid in the timely manner. And that adjustment is he's able to raise his daily remit rate, or the percentage that he's taking from the credit card sales on a daily basis. He's also able to increase that rate if the client wants more money or wants to be paid off more quickly. But this allows you to be able to see the client and to work with a client. Remember, credit cards are the waves of the future. Every client has them. This does also include debit cards as well as credit cards. So you are able to debit and be repaid from a client once he whips out the plastic. So the sell to the merchant is have your clients repay your debt and be able to get the money you would make in the future now to grow your business. Well, I thank you for your time and your attention. My name is Michael Borland, and I look forward to speaking with you.